All right, wherever you are, whatever time it may be, the buttons have been pressed. Here we are. This is Jay Brown Yoga Talks podcast. My name is Jay Brown. How the hell are you? Whoever you are you a new person? If so, welcome to you. All the rest of y'all, what is going on? Hope this finds you in an okay moment. Are things reopening where you are? I think sometimes these days I'm imagining that the whole world is in the same kind of place, but we're really not, I don't think. Maybe like the US and the UK are in similar boats, but I don't know, when I talk to my friends in Australia and some other places, it doesn't seem like they've been going through the same kind of experience that I have and like my fellow Americans have. Things are definitely on a reopen note in America because all the cases are down and all the death rates down and all the restrictions are starting to be lifted. People are getting vaccinated. But I have to say, the whole transition mode that we're in here, it still feels very awkward. And there's still a lot of underlying anxiety and hesitancy to just be like, okay, let's reopen again, because we all know there could be another wave. But for now, everybody's vaxxed up and ready to go. I got a bunch of emails from yoga teachers who I haven't heard from in months and months and months, putting out their schedule in-person events. They're coming back. And hey, I don't blame anybody. I'm thinking about it too. At the beginning of 2020, I just kicked off a tour. I have always had it in mind that at some point I would just pick it back up again. The question has always just been when. When does it feel like that would be an appropriate thing to do? And, you know, I've been thinking about September, maybe. I'm going to book an event in September? I don't know. There's no way to know. There's no way to know. And I'm pretty sure that I am not the only one who's not sure what to do right now. And I've been talking to a number of different people about what they're doing, including today's guests, Dave and Stacy Dockins. And Dave and Stacy, they owned 3 yoga centers in Texas, and they were forced to close them all down. And they've been living in a van for the last 6 months, maybe 7 months now. I can't remember when we recorded, but hashtag van life, hashtag yoga teacher. And if you know hashtag van life, then you know what I'm talking about. Well, Dave and Stacy are doing it. They're live streaming classes from like wherever they are in their travels. And someone mentioned them to me, a listener, and I reached out to them and I hooked up to them from the van. I talked with them, and it was really interesting to me just to hear that there are a lot of people out there who are either deciding not to go back to doing what they were doing when everything shut down, or if they are, not in quite the same way. So it was great to connect with Dave and Stacy and learn about why they decided to do what they were doing and what it's like to live in a van. It's very cool, and I'm excited that you're going to get to listen to that today. Real quick before we do, let me say something to all of those yoga teachers out there who are doing online classes, and maybe now you're going back to in-person classes. And just like as a little side note, I don't think that we want to have people be able to like pay for both at the same time. Like, I think like the online classes have to be a separate thing from the in-person classes. And that is just like too long a conversation to have right now. And I encourage you to check out my yoga business class if you're interested in that. But what I do want to say is that if you're doing online classes, you really want to think about moving to a subscription model if you haven't already. And in order to do that, you're going to need a way to accept recurring payments. Maybe you're using PayPal or Venmo now. I want to suggest to you that there's a better option. It's what I use. It's called MoonClerk, and it is a way to accept recurring and one-time payments from people. It's way easier and more efficient than using a lot of the other like bundled e-commerce options that people offer out there. I personally cannot recommend MoonClerk enough. It has absolutely made my life easier and better and made my business more fruitful. So maybe now's the moment to get yourself a much more efficient system in place. And I want to encourage you to check out MoonClerk because I think that it can do that for you. You can do me a favor and let them know that I sent you by going to jbrownyoga.com/MoonClerk. That's jbrownyoga.com/MOONCLERK. jbrownyoga.com/MoonClerk. You won't regret it. Now, let me also mention that this episode today is brought to you in support by Podcast Premium subscribers. People like Erica Lawrenson and Elizabeth Hurley. Thank you, Erica and Elizabeth, and everyone else who has become a Podcast Premium subscriber. If you've been listening to the show and you want to get access to the full archive, or you just want to support the show, the way to do that is to become a Podcast Premium subscriber. It's choose your rate. You can cancel at any time. If you don't have any money right now, then you just email us and we will give you a free account, no questions asked. But if you are in a position to even give a little bit of something, it's pretty crucial. It makes a big difference for the show, and we're grateful to everybody who's contributing in that way. You can find out about becoming a Podcast Premium subscriber, as well as all of my other ongoing online classes and my on-demand video stuff. Everything can be found at jbrownyoga.com. Okay, I think that's it. I mean, I sort of changed the subject really quick there at the beginning when I mentioned if I'm booking an event in September, didn't I? Because I think I'm going to, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe we'll touch base about that on the other side, as well as a few other things, but I think we should just get to it. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and listen to this conversation that I had from the van with Dave and Stacy Dockins. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Stacy.
Hi, Jay.
How are you? Is Dave there too, or is it just you?
I'm here too, yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Hi, Stacy and Dave.
Hello, hello.
Oh, so much fun for me to have this moment to talk to you like this. Thanks for making it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. We're honored to be here chatting with you today.
Yeah, we're excited.
Well, I have to say, I've been using this show since I started it to, retrace back through some of the trajectories of yoga becoming a thing and a profession. And that was before the pandemic. And then now with the pandemic, I've been very much reflecting on how those trajectories that were happening before the pandemic are now really affecting the choices people are making right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's all these shifts and people making pretty big decisions right now about are they going to go back to owning a yoga center again?
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't think so. A lot of people are in a different place.
Yeah.
And so in any case, I saw what you two were doing and it hit on not another notes because towards the beginning of the pandemic, I was talking with my business partner, Josh, and it was at a moment, actually, it was even before, well, actually, it was during the pandemic, but Trump was still president, if I recall. And we were talking about, what are we going to do? Are we moving to New Zealand? What are we doing? And he said, oh man, I'm going #van life. And I was like, what? And he told me about, he had gotten into #van life, which I know you two know all about.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So in any case, that's all just a little precursor for you to know where I'm coming from and what my motivations were in reaching out to you.
Awesome.
I guess just to get us started, before we get into the van, which I totally want to ask you about, I guess we should really lay a little history. I don't know much about you. I read a few things online. I'm, I guess, curious, maybe when did you two first meet and become a thing? And was that like in a yoga class?
Oh my gosh, no.
We met when we were kids.
Yeah, we were babies. We met when we were 16. So we were high school sweethearts. Went to college together, and doing yoga together didn't happen for a while.
Yep.
I'd say. Yeah. So way pre-yoga. So we kind of grew into our yoga journey together.
Wow. Did you both have former like profession incarnations? What were your other gigs before yoga?
I worked in the food industry prior to us getting into the yoga business, I guess you could say. So almost 20 years of working in food manufacturing, like from a food safety and product development standpoint.
Huh. Like,
really dark.
Like mass produced frozen foods, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, foods for restaurants and retail, and not necessarily healthy foods by any means, but foods that we love as Western cultures, people do. So everything from corn dogs to just
soups,
fried
randomness,
foods. Yeah. I mean,
junk food.
it really is a pretty broad spectrum of what I worked in. But yeah, at one point, it all we had the opportunity to step away from all that. So,
All right, Stacy, what was your gig before yoga?
So I also worked some in the food industry early on after college, but I was more in the personnel side of things, working with people. But once we started having kids, that became my full-time job for a bit, raising three kids. And then I eventually started to kind of tippy-toe back into doing a lot of fitness stuff. So I was teaching different fitness formats and cycling and things like that. But yeah, that was about it for me before I started really expanding more into yoga.
And so when was it that yoga became a thing for you, Stacy? Like when did you move more from those fitness modalities towards yoga?
Yeah, I would say it was right around 2000 that I started doing teaching yoga, doing teacher training and teaching and things like that. And then probably, I think it's 2005, we opened our first studio. And so we had our 3 studio locations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for 15 years.
Yeah, a little over 15
years.
Okay. I had friends who lived in Dallas. I don't know if he'd have been to your studios. He might have. I guess, what were the studios like? What was the yoga that you guys were doing there?
So we were mostly doing, when we started, we were strictly vinyasa, heated vinyasa.
That was the move in 2005, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Sure was.
Yeah. And, it's kind of funny after as we progressed in our personal yoga journeys, we started veering away towards wanting to do other things and like having interest in different movement, just different yoga.
Yeah. We can get into that because you're not the only ones who that happened to.
We live and learn, don't we? It's like, we just live and learn, and that wisdom is like 2020. But anyway, what was interesting being in the business is that we felt like after, selling a certain product for 10, 12 years, and that's really what it is. People were coming to us because they loved our heated vinyasa. You kind of feel a little locked into that. It's like, I'm wanting to do more restorative, yin, slower flows, more functional yoga, moving sort of things. And people really want the heat of vinyasa because that's what we are known for. But anyway.
Hey, if the name of your place is Power Yoga Institute, you got to think they're coming for the power yoga, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which luckily we weren't called that, but.
Oh, why do I have that down? Texas Power Yoga Institute.
Oh my gosh, that's so old though, Jay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at bio stuff I picked up online.
Wow,
Not a lot,
I don't even know where you found that.
I know the name has changed over the years, but that's what it started out as, right?
That was when we first started doing yoga teacher training, that was what it was when we first started
Oh, the name of the training. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're Yoga Project. YogaProject.com is our website, and that's the name of our studio. But yeah, so thank goodness it was just Yoga Project, and we called it Project because we really had no idea where it was going to go, and we still kind of feel that way in a way. But
well, I mean, that's what it's called now, right? But what were the name of the centers that you had?
The center was always YogaProject.com.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yep.
And you had 3 locations, you said?
3 locations.
Wow. And how many years did you have all those locations from 2005 till when?
Till we stepped away at, last May? Was it? It's been a year ago.
I think it's almost exactly a year that we officially closed everything down.
Yeah. And that was hard. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine. I closed down in 2017 just because my lease went up and the lease renewal made it no longer feasible.
Yeah.
Which is sort of my question to you. You had 3 locations. How was it? What was it? And let's be honest.
Yeah.
How was it going leading up to everything having to shut down? Were things going well?
Do you want to answer that, Dave?
Yeah, things were going pretty well. I mean, it's not like we were going to get rich off of it, but we were definitely surviving, and we were definitely, we had 3 kids in college at the same time. That all this decision was of shutting down was going on. So, we were doing okay. So
in all honesty, we were doing a little more than surviving even. I mean, we were doing, in our eyes, we were doing well. Probably in a lot of other aspects of society, not well. But
I know how that goes. To me and maybe to you, everything's getting paid and we're okay, we're great. But if you looked at the spreadsheets and you were some business analyst, you might not think so.
Absolutely. But we, part of that, we were doing well was we were still doing what we love too. And so that there's all of that part of it. But as soon as everything shut, we closed before the mandate to close. So when we got to this time last year, I don't even remember the dates now, but in Texas, we closed 5 days before we were mandated to close because we felt it. We knew we needed to close before we were told to close. But the hard part was because we had 3 locations, we weren't planning on closing at that point. We were practically begging our landlords just to work with us because we all did not know it was coming, and so we were begging for help from them just to work with us because times 3 locations, that's a lot of money going down the drain pretty quickly.
Believe me, I had 1 and I can only imagine the 3.
Yeah, the amount of money that turns over monthly is just mind-boggling. Yeah.
But we couldn't get any help, interestingly, from any of the landlords. All 3 of them were like, sorry, rent's due. We were like, wow. The doors are closed. Let me just add in. So we made a decision that, we were going to pay. We only had a small group of just a few instructors that solely depended on us for income. Mm-hmm. And so we, as much as possible, paid them and kept them on the books as long as we could, and also tried to pay what we could to our landlords. And it got to a point where after just a couple of months of doing that, the landlords were even, it kind of blew us away because they even sent us a letter threatening, litigation, taking it to a lawsuit, saying that, because we paid 3/4 of rent for the first month, and second month being closed, we paid half rent, and it was just too much.
Yeah, I came up against that a little bit with a landlord I had. It wasn't for a whole big studio, but I had a space that I was renting to work out of. A similar thing happened where like I actually made payments all throughout the year and stuff, but they were just such jerks when the time came to renew and everything. I don't understand the reasoning behind the landlords and why they don't work with people. I mean, I guess I know some people who had landlords who were more reasonable, but I've heard of other people who were in similar situations to you, and you sort of have no choice when they put it to you like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had acquaintances. We had some friends that have studios, and they had landlords. It was amazing because we were hearing from them. Their landlords, contacted them right away saying, "Don't worry, we're going to get through this together. We'll add on to the end." And instead, we were getting the absolute opposite. So, but I was so glad that other studios were able to work through and survive if they wanted to.
Yeah, and I just know from when I had a place that when you've been around for that long, there's just so much history, and the teachers and the people coming there to have to shut it down really is hard.
It was hard. Really hard.
Yeah. It
was like a death.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I noticed something that you had worked on an online course back in 2017. I read that in a blog post that you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking about that because I had actually started doing online stuff back then too, because like I said, my center closed and I had to move. And my business partner said, you need to start live streaming your classes before you close the center.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? And he was like, because you're going to move and nobody's going to have any way to connect with you. And you've made all these relationships for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I fought him on it. I was like, yoga's in person. It's not digital. And I was like against it, but I did relent and start doing it back then. And I do think that was a little bit of an advantage when everything jumped online last year. So what was this gig that you had in 2017 that you were doing stuff online?
Yeah. So we partnered with the University of Texas psychology department in creating a course that was called, I think it was the Science and Practice of Yoga. And so it was coming from more of a psychological theory perspective / yoga included. But that was a worldwide program that had, I don't even know, people from 25 different countries in it. And I'd never done anything like that before. But with their support and their prior knowledge, they were very into, studying online learning and how it worked and the best ways to connect with your students and stuff. And so that's what that was. I was kind of under their wing doing that, where Dave and I both were with them. But that was phenomenal, something that we didn't anticipate. But in hindsight, now looking back, that was so pivotal in our understanding how great online learning can be, actually.
Yeah, positive experience with online learning prior to the pandemic was definitely a plus.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so I guess when you did have to make the decision to shut down, how does that relate to your living situation and the van?
Yeah. So
you didn't just close down the yoga centers, right?
Oh my gosh. That I would say, looking back at those few months, between May and August, I was thinking about that this morning, actually. Probably the hardest workload, most difficult as far as workload goes for us. I mean, just crazy.
Yeah. It was pretty interesting. We were during the shutdown, the whole US shut down, and everyone's sick of being at home, and they've, binge watched every Netflix show they can. We were in hyper mode, shifting gears and shifting the whole focus of the business. And we were working relentless from sun up to sundown daily. And it was some of the hardest work I think we've ever done in our life.
Yeah, people were posting, I've made sourdough bread for the 5th time this week, or I learned this dance. And we're like, when is that going to happen for us? Because we are not in that mode at all. But yeah, how did it affect our living? So we didn't right away decide to sell our home.
Or to move in a van.
Yeah. But, as you know, like things were just crazy, and I think it catapulted all of us into this space of questioning our lives and from every direction. And it was just this weird thing that we just, there were so many unknowns. First of all, here we are shutting down this business that, has held us up financially. And there's that big unknown. What's going to happen a year from now? What's going to happen 6 months from now? And so there was that. The financial unknown, and then just the what's most important unknown. Like, what are we doing with our lives? What's most important? We don't really want to keep living in this suburban home in Midlothian, Texas that we're in. It's served us well, but it's not us right now. We need to move on. And so,
your kids had already, are your kids moved out already?
Yeah. They were all moved out. Yeah. So they're all college or recent college grad. Yes.
I see. That would make a big difference because I just settled down into a house with 2 kids. I have an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Yeah. So different. Yeah.
And I could just imagine how if they were both off at college or graduated, it would affect our choices right now so much more.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we just, it was one of those decisions too. I don't know if I think Dave may feel the same way, but maybe not as much as me. But once we made it and we put our house on the market and we sold our house and we bought the van, I'm telling you, we bought this van.
So where did the idea for the van come from? Who was the first one who watched the van life video or whatever?
I don't know who was the first. Probably Stacy. I don't know.
My travels the year before.
Yeah, I mean we've been traveling and we've made some tours. Stacy wrote a book, Embodied Posture, and so it came out the year before, and we did some tours through studios on the West Coast and all the way up to Seattle, Washington, and did some courses up there, and along the way we camped. And we really enjoyed it. And so we had bought this little teardrop camper that we loved, absolutely loved. And so we'd seen vans on the road and we always thought that would never be us, this and that. And then the more we spent time on the road, the more we kind of realized, to be in a van might actually be kind of comfortable compared to this teardrop trailer that you're kind of in and out of a tent, more or less. That's really nice. But yeah, and we eventually, when we made the decision to shut down, downsizing obviously was a priority. I mean, we had this huge house with kids gone, and we needed to save money. And
well, to that point, and to anybody who's listening to this who doesn't know hashtag van life, and we keep saying it because it is like a hashtag thing.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily just that, but I know that when I sort of watched some of the videos and my friend Josh has been real into it, it does seem like a lot of millennial kids are like, I'm not going to take on these huge financial responsibilities. I can get myself a Sprinter van that I can park kind of anywhere and live in it.
Yeah.
And not have to pay rent or just have to pay gas or whatever. And I do think, like you said, at the beginning of the pandemic, I certainly was like, holy shit, no more travel. Like you, a lot of my teaching work was travel based. And I was like, okay, well, if we can't make money, we got to cut expenses. There's no other way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely part of the equation for sure. And I think, there's that aspect, but then like just the mindset, like the mindset of not having the strings attached to beyond the financial. It's like, we don't know what the next move is going to make. So we want to be positioned in this really free space. And we can, we're privileged to be able to do that right now. And so, yeah.
Well, we were just talking about that in my teacher's class and this like yoga business class about having flexibility. Like I switched from a year lease to a month-to-month situation for the same reason that you just said, to have the flexibility because we don't know where things are going to go.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you decide, all right, we've got this camper and that's nice, but let's do a van. You got a little money because you sold the house. So who did you trick it out yourself or did you get it already tricked out?
Well, finding the van was hard for one, and we finally found one that we could go look at. It was like 5 or 6 hours away at this dealership, and so we went, and we actually made this, like, we threw a number at them, and it was kind of like this crazy. They just wanted us to leave with the van, you know what I mean? And so we ended up bringing home this van, and it sat in the parking lot for about a week, or in our driveway for about a week. And every day we'd look out there, every morning we'd be like, it's still there.
That's what I'm saying.
Holy cow.
I would like out the window and like get sick to my stomach and be like, oh my God, did we really buy this ridiculous thing?
I would be like, it's still there. This is not a dream.
It's still out there. It's going to magically turn into a house or something.
But we did it 100% of the work ourselves.
Yeah.
And I say Dave did, like Dave had the skills, and I project managed and it helped.
She cracked the whip and project managed, and we got it done in a hurry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And so how extensive? You got the bed, do you have like a shower? Like some people do, you don't have a shower in the van, but.
We were going to put a shower inside, like a full shower stall. That's, like and after doing a little bit of like dry run living in the van for about a couple of weeks, and this is kind of like before we had everything installed, we just had minimal, just had the bed really. And we realized that we didn't want to give up the space of that shower stall that would only be used a couple of minutes a day at the most. Right. So we actually have a shower system that we set up outside, like a little changing tent, and it really works beautifully. So
hot water shower off the back of the van.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like that. If you're not going to use it that much, and sometimes those shower stalls aren't that comfortable anyways, they got to be so small.
Yeah,
exactly.
We wanted the workspace. Like that was really important to have we have windows, and like we wanted it to be really nice inside. And so we kept it clean and open, but we do have a composting toilet, which people are very curious about. But it's phenomenal. Like I'll just leave it at that because it's hard to know unless you know, but it's one of our best purchases.
It doesn't stink up the van?
Zero.
Hey, you got it worked out. You got it worked out. You figured out the system.
Yeah,
that's what it seems to me it's all about. I mean, you made reference to it earlier about wanting to simplify.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly been a big thing for me too. As everything seems to get more complex and confusing, the more I can make everything in my life simpler.
Yes.
Even just like, if we haven't touched it in the last year, let's get rid of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, we got rid of it. We got rid of it. We've been living in a house for close to 20 years and I had 3 kids there. And like parallel to building the van, we were getting rid of all the stuff that we had in our house, and we gave away so many things.
We gave away just about everything.
We were calling people that we knew that had just gotten apartments, younger people that needed things, and we're like, we have a leather couch. We
got nice furniture, not IKEA. We've got like real adult furniture.
Yeah. And that was a whole process in and of itself. Like I'm getting rid of my books. Okay. I'm like holding onto the box. I'm like, no, okay, go.
Really strange in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah, but so good.
Yeah.
Got rid of everything. And now in the van, it's like, you don't have room to have more than one tube of toothpaste. Like you can't have all these tubes of toothpaste sitting around or different hair conditioners because you want to try them. You finish one and then you can get a new one.
So funny you said that because I'm like stocked up on like shampoo and conditioner and toothpaste. Cause some stuff say like we're running out of shit these days, supply chains are breaking down. I'm like all stocked up.
You never know.
Funny, but it's true. You see, it's an excessive way to live,
Yeah.
And so it seems to me there's something very philosophical or, like I imagine I've done some of what you're saying in small ways, even just moving from New York and having a center and moving to Pennsylvania where it's quieter and spending more time in nature. Like I made moves in the direction that you're talking about, but you two went all the way there. You got rid of all your shit and are in a van. Where are you right now in the van?
We have a $5 million dollar view where we're at right now. We're sitting on right on the water. Where are we at?
We're on Highway 1.
Jenner.
Just around Jenner, on the West Coast in California. Yeah, just north of San Francisco on the coast. Yeah, we're just watching the waves crash down below us right now. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, I've made that drive of sorts from like up from my sister lives at the Portland way and then all the way down to Southern California. I've driven that whole coast, so I know where you are. It's beautiful.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing to me. So what's your internet connection in the van? You guys got a hotspot or something?
You know, this is really amazing is that this spot that we're in just south of Jenner, it has the best cell reception I think I've ever experienced on the coast.
It's hit and miss. We do have a booster. We don't really know if it works really well yet. We're not sure, but you know, we do pretty well. We have Zoom meetings weekly. We have, we just find cell service and where we have, cell coverage and we're good. Sometimes we're without it, of course, but we just try to work around that.
Yeah, the phones are pretty versatile, Yeah, we can do Zoom calls and Zoom video conferences and everything on our iPhones. So using the cellular data, and it works well.
See, you two are proof of something that we've been talking about in my yoga business class, that we've been talking a lot about how one of the big shifts is that it's no longer about the space. Like you had these locations, like these storefronts or whatever with these massive overheads that you then have to like struggle to meet. And there's all these kinds of decisions and things that go on because of that. And then now this new situation that we're in, it's sort of, I don't know, that we're unbound from the spaces, a lot of us. And it's more like the people that you're connecting with. So if you've got people you're connecting with who want to take class with you, especially when they're online classes, which is what we're doing nowadays, most of everybody, then it doesn't matter to them. The space doesn't matter. And so you can be in whatever camp location you're at. And I saw the videos. You guys are just doing class from all these like exotic camp locations, it seems to me.
Yeah.
It's really kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's interesting. You said something earlier about how, your business partner wanted you to do the online stuff and you're like, that's not yoga. And it's really interesting when we let go. And I think we've gone through the same process of letting go of, I don't know, all the rules we think we have to have around what we're doing. And with yoga, especially, yoga has its own special set of rules, right? And it's like, and once you do step out of that, and my experience has been, wow, you start to really realize the goodness. Like, we've connected with so many people that we would not have connected with. We've heard from so many people that there's something beautiful about being able to practice in the privacy of their own home. For an example, a friend who is a trauma survivor, and she says, there's poses that I would never do in a studio, but I could do them in my bedroom, like feeling okay. Things that we don't often think of like that. So there's just so much goodness that we can open up to when we let go of those boundaries, that we thought were so important before.
Well, I had the same experience. I mentioned I was totally resistant at first, but as time went on, especially when it switched from just a one-way to a two-way, I do think there's a difference of me just like doing something in front of the camera and the two-way Zoom classes. And I use a projection and a big screen so I can see everybody big.
Nice.
So to me, then I've got people who've been practicing with me for years now online. And then I've actually met some of them in person or not. Some of them I've never met in person, but there's definitely real yoga exchange happening there. I've certainly proved it to myself that you can utilize the technologies. I don't think it's the same as being in the same room, but it's certainly still valuable. And I don't think it's going away.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's interesting that, I'm in a master's program right now, and people are getting master's degrees, PhDs all over the world online. Yet, and they're very high quality programs, very, very good programs. And yet yoga, there's a lot of sentiment that, it cannot be done online, or even any teacher trainings or anything like that. And I'm like, Why? I mean, and I get the one-on-one, yes, but that's good that's sought out in every learning environment, right? Whether it's getting your master's in something or learning yoga, I think the one-on-one connection is just as important. But it's interesting how yoga has kind of held itself. A lot of people think it's different and special and that it can't be done online.
I mean, I certainly think a lot of training can be done online. What I will say is I've spoken to some teachers who did their 200-hour training online and have only taught online classes, have never taught an in-person class.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of crazy. I mean, they still might be very effective teachers. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I know, having taught in-person classes for well over a decade before I ever even thought about doing an online class, and now having done online classes since 2017, I had already had everything in place. I'm very lucky that way.
Yeah.
I know there's a big difference between doing those two things.
Absolutely. You know what, but one thing on that is what we've noticed in doing online trainings is that our in-person trainings that we've held forever, it's yoga teachers teaching yoga teachers. Mm. And what we found in our online trainings now is that, they're spread out longer. They're teaching other people, and our trainees are actually getting to teach like their family, brand new people. Mm-hmm. And that experience that's invaluable. And that's there's more education, I think, in teaching a brand new person than teaching someone who knows the flow in their, whatever, who knows what's coming. So there's that experience that's positive with what we're noticing now too.
Well, I think if we're going to spread the training out over longer periods of time because they're online now and have them be more mentorship oriented, mm-hmm. I'm all in favor of that. And people teaching their family and friends to get started rather than having to do those classes where you taught all the other teacher trainees.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually think that's way better for yoga education.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. There's something different about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I wonder though, I did feel like, and it's still a thing for me that I'm really grappling with in terms of even it being a teacher training model, or cause the implication is that you gain some way to make a living. And we know right now that's not necessarily the case. And I guess there's sort of this thing of, if I offer material and I call it teacher training, then I'm allowed to charge thousands of dollars for it.
Right.
But if I offer it in a workshop, it's only worth hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm just trying to really, I don't know, the model of the teacher training. And I would say, having had a center and done teacher trainings and supported the center, because it was the only way the center survived, honestly. I couldn't have survived off the classes alone. Mm-hmm. It was very fickle, if the groups were big, then we were doing fine. But if the groups weren't big, then we weren't doing fine. And it wasn't really a sustainable way. Those hoping that we get enough people into the teacher training program isn't a sustainable future.
Yeah, I agree. And we tried to, we tried to approach it sort of as two separate businesses, even when we had our physical location. Mm-hmm. Obviously in the end they weren't, but we try to keep it a little separate so that we could have a look at how's the teacher training supporting itself and how's the...
If you are hearing this message, then you're listening to the free version of J. Brown Yoga Talks. To hear the rest of our conversation, please subscribe to Podcast Premium at jbrownyoga.com/premium.